In 1776, after declaring independence, the United States of America had to decide how they were going to govern themselves. The first plan was called the Articles of Confederation. Created in 1777, the Articles of Confederation created a government that had no president, no executive branch, judiciary, or a way to tax the people. Since they had no money, the federal government had no way to pay off debts from the Revolutionary War, except by asking for money from the states and selling land in the Northwest Territory. By 1787, the United States was in a depression. Farmers in particular had a lot of debt, so Daniel Shays led a group of rebels to try and take weapons and overthrow the government. Although Shays' rebellion failed in overthrowing the government, it is important because it forced the federal government to look over and try to fix the Articles of Confederation to create a more powerful central government that would help the people. The result of the attempt to fix the Articles of Confederation was a whole new document called the United States Constitution. It was written in 1787, mainly by James Madison, who is often called the father of the Constitution. The Constitution has 6 goals and is based on 7 major principles. The Constitution fixed many of the problems from the Articles of Confederation and is still used today.
The preamble, or introduction to the Constitution, was the 6 goals to the United States government. Governor Morris set the Constitutional Convention as a delegate from Pennsylvania. He wrote the inspiring preamble and helped write and edit much of the rest of the Constitution. He had the first line of the Constitution to read, "We the people of the United States." The following 6 goals guided the Constitution's framers as they created the new government. The first goal of the government was to form a more perfect nation. Under the Articles of Confederation, the states functioned like independent nations, often disagreeing on defense and finances. The framers believed the states needed to agree to operate as a single country and cooperate on major issues. This helped create a bigger sense of unity. The second goal of the government was to establish justice. For the framers, treating each citizen equally was a fundamental principle. The Constitution provides a national system of courts to protect the people's rights and to hear cases involving violations of federal law and disputes among the states. The third goal of the government was to ensure domestic tranquility. They wanted the new nation to be like the Garden of Eden. The violent protests of Shays' Rebellion in 1786 shocked Americans. One of the Constitution's main goals is to keep peace among the people.
The last 3 of the 6 amendments of the government, as stated in the preamble, are: the 4th Amendment is to provide for a common defense. Under the Articles of Confederation, the nation's defense depended on state militias. The Constitution gives the federal government the power to maintain armed forces to protect the country and its citizens from attack. The 5th Amendment is to promote general welfare. The Declaration of Independence states that the purpose of the government is to promote life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for the people's rights of the nation. The Constitution includes the right to promote general welfare or the well-being of the people by maintaining order, protecting individual liberties, regulating commerce and bankruptcies, and promoting science and technology by granting government authority. The 6th and final amendment of the government is to secure the blessings of liberty. The framers believed that preserving liberty should be a major goal for generations to come. Later did we know this goal would save us. The Constitution guarantees that no American's basic rights will be taken away now for prosperity of one's greed or the other's needs. The 6 goals of the Constitution remain as important today as they were when the Constitution was written, for they have made the basis of which we follow with our laws and the Bill of Rights.
The Constitution has 7 guiding principles or rules. The first principle is popular sovereignty, which is the idea that the government derives its powers from the citizens. The framers, or the writers of the Constitution, lived in a time when kings believed that their power to rule came from God. The Constitution had a new idea that the government gets its authority to rule from the people. The preamble is the introduction of the Constitution. It was written by Governor Morris. It begins with the words, "We the people." It reflects the idea that it is the right of the people to govern themselves. The people are the source of the government's power. Principle 2 is republicanism. Republicanism is a form of government. Instead of having citizens directly participating in the government to help decide everything, citizens elect a representative to do the voting for them and to carry out their wishes indirectly. Once elected, representatives must stay open to the opinions of the people they represent. In our republic, the people of each state vote for their representatives. Each state gets 2 seats in the Senate and a number of representatives in the House of Representatives based on the state's population. This is called proportional representation. To determine how many representatives each state gets, Congress holds a national census every decade to count the population. However, there are only 435 seats available in the House of Representatives. California has 53 representatives in the House of Representatives. California's representatives meet with the other representatives from other states to debate about their ideas of law. The representatives discuss a topic until they come to an agreement, which sometimes becomes a law.
In the 1700s, colonists lived under an abusive king who taxed the colonists. The colonists had no representation in Parliament. They faced tyranny or the abuse of power by the government under this king, so they formed a new government. The framers of the Constitution wanted to avoid such tyranny in the new government, so the framers of the Constitution limited the powers of the new government by writing the Constitution. The Constitution says what the government couldn't do, and the framers of the Constitution protected the people from the abuse of power because the government can only say what the Constitution says. Federalism is the division of powers between the national and state governments. There are certain things that national and state governments can or can't do. For example, the national government has the power to regulate trade inside the states, set standard weights and measures, admit new states, create federal courts, declare war, and establish post offices, etc. These powers are called enumerated powers. States also have their own powers. States can make laws for corporations, regulate trade in their own borders, establish schools, establish local government, provide public safety, and make laws about marriage and divorce. These powers are called reserved powers.
Based on the ideas of Baer and de Montesquieu, the federal government is divided into 3 branches. The legislative branch is the first branch of government. Laws are written in this branch. The second branch is the executive branch. This is where the president and other officials carry out the laws and oversee everything. The last branch is the judicial branch. This branch consists of courts and judges to manage the law. Checks and balances is a protective system that our government has, so that our 3 branches, the executive, judicial, and legislative, watch each other and make sure none of them abuse their power. So let's pretend the legislative branch wanted to pass a law saying that you could only drink Coca-Cola in public. The judicial branch can look at that law and reject it by saying that the law is unconstitutional or doesn't abide by the Constitution, and the executive branch can veto or say no to the law. When the executive branch is getting out of control, the legislative branch and the judicial branch will watch the executive branch to see if they're doing their job correctly. When the judicial branch is making a Supreme Court ruling, the legislative branch and the executive branch will watch and make sure that justice is included. This system of checks and balances was created so that every branch watches the other, and that everything is fair and even within the government.
Principle 7, Individual Rights. Basic liberties and rights of all citizens are guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. Individual rights are protected by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. James Madison wrote this document at a diplomatic meeting with representatives from all the states present. This was the response to the anti-federalists from smaller states that wished for greater constitutional protection of their individual rights, which they feared would be taken away by the stronger national government. The solution was an additional Bill of Rights which limited the power of the government and listed the rights that U.S. citizens possessed. For example, one of the amendments in the Bill of Rights is Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment or religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to the petition of the government for redress of grievances. What the First Amendment means is that the government can't make a law that favors a certain religion to another or keeps a religion from its practices. For example, the government can't allow a public school funding for a Christian school club but not an Islamic one. However, there are certain rights like the right to life that protects people from certain practices that would not benefit everyone. For example, if a particular religion practices human or animal sacrifice or another ritual of a similar style, the natural rights of the human and animal are protected, so it would be illegal. but if the religion isn't infringing on the rights of others or isn't breaking any established laws, the government cannot make a law that specifically targets a certain religion or group. This amendment also protects the rights of people to peacefully assemble and practice political freedom of speech. Similarly to human sacrifice, not all speech is protected under this amendment. Such actions as yelling bomb on a plane and provoking fear, panic, and violence aren't protected or tolerated.
Some amendments included in the Bill of Rights are Amendment 2, a well-controlled militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be violated. The Second Amendment is saying the government needs a military, and this amendment protects it. It also allows citizens of the country to bear arms within reason. Of course, children cannot own weapons, and guns are now licensed, but if a normal law-abiding adult wants to own a gun, he or she can own one if they take the proper steps. Amendment 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no authorization shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or declaration, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the people or things to be seized. Property cannot be seized without reasonable cause or suspicion. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise shameful crime unless on a presentment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or navy or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subjected for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be taken away of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just repayment. Basically, it is saying that citizens of the United States have a right to a trial with a jury. However, soldiers and other members of the military do not have the right necessarily to a jury. Amendment 5 also protects against double jeopardy, which means you cannot be tried for the same crime under the same charges twice.
Amendment 6 states that in all criminal prosecutions, the accused should enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district where the crime has been committed, which district should have been previously discovered by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have mandatory process for getting witnesses in his favor, and to have the help of counsel for his defense. Amendment 6 states that citizens have the right to an efficient, fast trial. Of course, many people nowadays do not find the judicial process speedy at all, but basically this protects against people being held without knowing what they're being charged with for an excessive amount of time. Since the rights are written, the government cannot take away the natural rights of the people. The Constitution, written in 1787, is still in effect today because it allows the government to deal with matters the drafters of the Constitution never even thought of, like controlling trading through the internet. The Constitution contains a plan for changing and adding to the document. Making amendments to the Constitution is difficult. More than 9,000 changes have been proposed, but only 27 have passed. Some notable amendments are Amendment 13, which outlaws slavery, Amendment 18, which prohibited the production, sale, or transportation of alcohol, Amendment 19, which gave women the right to vote, Amendment 21, which overturned Amendment 18 because it proved too difficult to enforce, and Amendment 26, which guarantees citizens the right to vote at age 18. Although the Constitution can be changed, the 6 goals, 7 major principles, and the Bill of Rights that first appeared in the documents remain the same.